Unplanned video here with Analytical Chick. So, what is his name? James O'Keefe from Project Veritas. He just released a video. So if you don't know who James O'Keefe is, let me give you a little bit of background. He is a journalist who does undercover work to catch media companies, media people, basically admitting that their stories are crap and stuff. So he had an interview with this kid who was at a Turning Point conference. So in theory, the kid is a conservative, but in actuality, it's pretty obvious. This kid had an agenda, and he seemed like a leftist. The way he kept asking the same question over and over again, and O'Keefe kept answering it. But basically, O'Keefe kept explaining to him how undercover work is done. And one of the things I found interesting about this, if you watch my channel all the time, you know that I am actually middle-aged. So, I don't sound it, but, so when I was growing up, all of these, now corrupt stations, like ABC News used to do all kinds of great undercover reports. There was, when I was a kid, there was a show on TV called, Fight Back. Well, that was slightly different. That wasn't undercover journalism, but that was another show where they did, consumer reviews. The claims that were in commercials, they, tested them out. So, really interesting. I guess you could probably look up the Wikipedia page. And the guy who was the host, his name was actually David Horowitz, but it wasn't the same one. So, when I first saw that David Horowitz, I was like, is that the same guy? But no, there's two David Horowitzes. But yeah, John Stossel used to do a show, or a section of 2020. It was like, give me a break, and he did. But they used to do undercover journalism. Mostly, the media didn't do undercover journalism on other media companies, but they did do it on businesses. So I can remember they used to do car mechanic shops a lot. There was something that used to happen called short sticking, where when you used to get your gas, there used to be more places where they would put your gas in for you. And they'd, stick the pump in, set it to run, and then they would, you'd pop your hood, they would check your oil, and if you needed oil, they would add oil, and, and they would wash your windshield. My grandmother actually used to go to this place where they would do this all the time, and I would see through, you know how if the hood is popped, you're sitting in the car and somebody has the front hood popped, there's still a little crack where you can see, you can't see much, but you can see, there's a little crack where you can see where the hinge, was or whatever, where you can kind of see. And I would see that they would be doing this thing called short sticking, where they would put the dipstick down to check the oil, but they wouldn't put it all the way down. And then what I found out later from one of these undercover investigation stories, they would check your oil would be fine, but they'd show you the stick that was short sticked, tell you need oil, and then they would take an empty oil container and pretend they were selling you a quart of oil that they would, overturn into your oil. But it was empty. So, yeah. And my grandmother used to be a victim to this. I never said anything to her because I always knew, she wouldn't listen to me. I was, 5 years old, 6 years old when they used to do this to her. She'd be pulling away from this gas station and be like, those boys are so nice. They really like me. Those boys are so nice. And I'd be like, yeah, never mind. She's not going to believe the 5-year-old over those boys who are so nice. Oh, anyway. So that was a bit of a tangent, but they used to do undercover journalism all the time to catch companies. I believe I saw an expose on one of these channels. I think ABC used to do this a lot. So, you see shows like 60 Minutes? They used to do undercover journalism, and they would put it on shows like 60 Minutes. 2020, I don't know if that's still on the air, but that used to have almost every week they would have an undercover segment. So it's funny that these very same journalism outlets that I saw doing undercover work when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, and even when I was like first in college. My college was actually split in half. I went for 2 years, and then my father was like, not only was he not going to help me, but I suddenly had to move out. But anyway, so I didn't finish college, and then I came back and I finished later here when I lived in New York City. But yeah, so 20 years ago, this undercover journalism was like something that mainstream media did all the time. Anybody who is 40 or older, even maybe late 30s, should be able to remember this. Like, if you've got like a grandmother or great-grandmother who's around, who's like 60 years old, ask them. They'll tell you. They'll tell you that these shows used to do undercover journalism. And most of it was on businesses. They would catch businesses. Also, they used to do undercover journalism and catch politicians. But now these big, ABC, CBS, CNN, what's the other one? MSNBC, NBC, the main channels on television that also have news networks, all of them used to do undercover journalism, and now they're like in bed with the politicians. So yeah, it's a big difference. And so you have kids who are, if you are like 20 or younger, you may not, you probably don't realize this unless like you have, a mother or grandmother or great-grandmother, some older person that that like told you this. Or, maybe you've encountered another YouTube video where they told you this. But this used to be the norm in news media in the U.S. So, very interesting. Hadn't planned on covering it. Thanks for stopping by my channel. I will see you all next time.